Hello everyone, I Rahul Tripathi, faculty of MBA department from Tecnia Institute of Advanced Studies. Today I am going to deliver a lecture on cross-border merger and acquisitions. So friends, let us start with the introduction part. In globalization period, cross-border mergers and acquisitions have increased radically over the last 2 decades. Horn and Pearson and Norbeck and Pearson presented theoretical models where foreign companies may acquire domestic acquisition targets with the acquisition price being determined endogenously in a bargaining process. In these models, they find that high trade costs do not necessarily induce foreign merger and acquisitions, contrary to the tariff jumping argument. So friend, what do you mean by the merger? So merger is, economic expert explained the concept of merger, the combination of two or more independent businesses, corporations into a single enterprise, usually involving the absorption of one or more firms by a dominant firm. Mergers may be generally classified as horizontal, vertical and conglomerate. What do you mean by the acquisition? So let us define the acquisition. Scholars elucidated this term as an act of one enterprise of acquiring directly or indirectly of shares, voting rights, assets, or control over the management of another enterprises. Numerous factors which motivate firms for cross-border merger and acquisitions include various points. So let us discuss these points one by one. First is globalization of the financial market. Second is market pressures and falling demand due to the international competition. Third is seek new market opportunities since the technology is fast evolving. Fourth is geographical diversification, which would result in exploring the assets in other countries. Fifth is increased companies' efficiency in producing the goods and services. Sixth, fulfillment of the objective to grow profitably. 7, increase the scale of production. And the last one, that is 8th, technology share and innovation which reduces cost. So friends, now we are going to discuss the cross-border merger and acquisition issues and challenges. So it is analyzed that cross-border merger and acquisitions are quite similar to the domestic merger and acquisitions, but because the former are huge and international in nature, they may pose certain unique challenges in terms of different economies, legal and cultural structures. There could be huge differences in terms of customers' choices, business practices and the culture, which could pose a huge threat for companies to fulfill their strategic objectives. There are many issues and challenges related to the cross-border merger and acquisition. So friends, let us discuss the first one, that is the political concerns. Political situation has major role in the cross-border merger and acquisitions, particularly for industries which are politically sensitive such as defense, security, etc. It is also important to concern of the parties like the government agencies, federal, state or local, employees, suppliers and all other interested should be addressed subsequent to the plan of the merger is known to public. In fact, in certain cases, there could be a requirement of prior notice and discussion with the labor unions and other concerned parties. It is important to identify and evaluate present or probable political consequences to avoid any probability or political risk arising. Next point that we are going to discuss is, that is the cultural challenges. Cultural challenges or factors exert more threat to the success of cross-border merger and acquisitions. From past records, it can be established that huge mergers that have failed because of the cultural issues they have had. When there are cross-border transactions, issues arises because of the geographic scope of the deal. Several factors such as differing cultural backgrounds, language necessities and dissimilar business practices have led to fail mergers in spite of being in the age where we can instantly communicate. Research suggested that intercultural disagreements is one of the major indicator of failure in the cross-border merger and acquisition. So next point which we are going to discuss is, that is the legal considerations. Firms interested to merge cannot ignore the challenge of various legal and regulatory issues. Various laws in relation to the security, corporate and the competition law are bind to diverge from each other. Hence, before considering the deal, it is important to review the employment regulations, antitrust statute and other contractual requirements to be dealt with. These laws are very much part of both while the deal is under process and also the deal has been closed. While undergoing the process of reviewing these concerns, it could indicate that the potential merger or acquisition would be totally incompatible and hence it is recommended to not to go ahead with the deal. Next is, which we are going to discuss, is that is the tax and accounting considerations. Tax issues are critical particularly when it comes to structuring the transactions. The proportion of debt and equity in the transaction involved would influence the outlay of the tax. Hence, a clear understanding of the sum becomes important. Next is, that is the due diligence. Due diligence is significant element of the merger and acquisition process. Apart from the legal, political and the regulatory issues, there are also infrastructure, currency and other local risks which need through the appraisal. Due diligence can affect the terms and conditions under which the merger and acquisition transaction would take place, influence the deal structure and affect the price of the deal. To summarize, a cross-border merger and acquisition is elaborated as an activity in which an enterprise from one country buys the whole asset or controlling percentage of an enterprise in another country. Cross-border merger and acquisitions is highly advantageous to those companies and also increase its share price, but as we saw, there are a lot of factors which need to be taken into consideration to avoid any anomalies. It is documented that cross-border merger and acquisition has become one of the leading approaches for firms to gain access to the global markets. So friend, I hope you understand the topic in the effective manner. This is from my side. Thank you very much.